did you kill that? Okay.
I like your bridge background.
Good morning.
How about now? Can you hear us better?
I could hear you a lot better, and,
Okay.
and my apologies, everyone.
No worries. Well, we are ready to get started if you are, and I just am going to read a brief statement about our virtual meeting. So, as permitted by the Governor's Disaster Declaration of January 8th, 2021, the determination has been made that an in-person meeting is neither practical nor prudent for this committee. And so to ensure transparency, we posted the meeting agenda a week in advance and the materials, and we will provide a recording of this meeting on our website and take all votes by roll call. So thank you, Mr. Secretary. I will turn it over to you.
Good morning, and good morning, everyone. And once again, my sincere apologies for the technical difficulties on my end. Happy New Year. Good to see majority of us being on this meeting, and I'm hoping we'll have a great and fruitful meeting here. To start off with, I would like to ask the Executive Director, Erin Alleman, to call the roll for the MPO policy committee meeting. Erin.
Sounds good. Secretary Osmond?
Here.
Commissioner Biaggi?
Here.
Cmap member Frank Beal?
Here.
Cmap member Matt Burley? I believe I see him. We will confirm with him shortly. CTA? Cook County?
Sis Killen here.
Thank you. Council of Mayors, Mayor Shelkey?
Here.
DuPage County, Chairman Cronin.
Here.
FHWA, Arlene Coker.
Here.
Welcome. FTA?
Yes, Tony Greep representing Kelly Brookins for the FTA.
Thank you. Illinois Tollway Executive Director, Jose Alvarez.
Good afternoon. Good morning. Afternoon, I wish. This is Rocco Zucchero representing Executive Director Alvarez.
Thank you. Good morning. Kane County Chair Pirogue.
There we go. Hi, finally I'm muted.
Good morning and welcome.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Kendall County Chair. Don't hear Kendall County. I saw a phone unmute. If that is you, if you could just put a chat or send us an email. Lake County Chair Hart.
Good morning, Shane Schneider, here on behalf of Chair Hart.
Thank you. Good morning. And McHenry County, we heard they would be absent this morning. Anyone standing in for McHenry? Metra.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Lynette Civarella sitting in for Executive Director Jim Dewinski.
Thank you. Pace.
Good morning, Rocky Donahue.
Thank you. RTA.
Morning, Leanne Redden from RTA.
Thank you. Will County Executive, Bertino Trot.
Good morning, I'm here.
And Class 1 Railroads. I see you, Eric. Looks like
Good morning and Happy New Year, everyone. Eric Varela from Union Pacific.
Thank you. Good morning. We have a quorum, Mr. Secretary. We can move forward. It appears you're still on mute, Omar.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Erin. I appreciate that. No, Erin, you alluded to it, the background you talked about it, the Mary Becker Bridge, I-74, over the Illinois River in Peoria, Illinois, and Peoria is where I live. That's a brand new project. If you see the decorative lighting, that's where that it was part of the Rebuild Illinois. The district over in Peoria did a great job redoing that area, and it's a fantastic asset for the area. With that, I'm really pleased to announce two new committee members from Will County. You did hear over on the roll call. From Will County, we have Jennifer Patino Tarrant, famously known as JBT. Welcome. Welcome the new executive director to the team. And of course, from Kane County, we have Kane County Chair Corinne Pirro. I hope I'm saying the last name as you would like, as you would like to hear it, County Chair. If you could hear us.
She gave you the thumbs up.
Okay, great,
It's
great.
perfect, thank you.
Great, and regrettably, as alluded to, I think the county chair, Mike Bueller, is not available as he is attending his own board meeting this morning. With that, we look forward to working with all of you, executive director and the county chair. If you guys would like to add anything verbally, would love to hear from you.
Well, I'll go first. First of all, my first meeting, and it's a pleasure to be here and to learn. I happen to live in Batavia, and I know my mayor has been a strong advocate, Mayor Schelke, and has encouraged me to participate as much as I am able to. Look forward to working collaboratively with you and making sure that Kane County's transportation is well funded and send the money our way. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm joking, of course.
Yeah. Good to hear from you.
Thank you too for the warm welcome there, Mr. Secretary. I appreciate the opportunity to be here as well, and not only in this seat, but to work with such esteemed people. Like my counterpart, I am in the process of learning many things. While I have a familiarity with many of these programs, it's going to be nice to get to dig deeper. So I will be listening and learning, and looking forward to working with everyone for a better region. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, and thank you. Let's move on to item 3 on the agenda, and that is the approval of the minute for the meeting we had on October 14, 2020. And what we are looking for is and I think you have it before you, the minutes from the joint meeting of the board and the policy committee that took place once again on October 14, 2020. I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes from that meeting. Again, please, if you could state your name when making a motion or adding a second, I would appreciate that.
Jeff
Leanne
Shelk,
Redden from RTA.
Jeff Go
Once
ahead.
again,
Jeff Shelke from the Council of Mayors. I would make the motion to approve the minutes as presented.
And I also heard Leanne Redden.
You can put me down as a second, that's fine.
perfect. Perfect. With that, we will need a roll call
Sounds
to
good.
vote on the approval of the minute. Aaron, would you please call the roll?
Thank you. Secretary Osmond,
Yes.
Idot,
Yes.
Cmap Frank Beal,
Yes.
Cmap Matt Burley, CTA.
Yes, Mike Connolly for Dorval Carter, President of CTA.
Thank you. Cook County,
Yes.
Mayor Schelke, Council of Mayors,
Yes.
Chair Cronin,
Yes.
Tolway,
Yes.
Kane County,
Yes.
Kendall County, Lake County,
Yes.
McHenry County, Metra,
Yes.
Pace,
Yes.
RTA,
Yes.
Will County,
Yes.
and the motion carries.
Thank you. We'll move on to item number 4, which are the agency reports. We'll start with the Executive Director's report, Erin Alleman.
Thank you. So happy new year to everyone. You know, as we wrap up the year, one of the things that we traditionally do is put together a print report of our annual report. And so like so many other aspects of our life, we had decided to go digital this year with our annual report and created a video of the highlights. So with everything we do, it can't be done without the collaboration and partnership of yourselves and the many other partners from across the region. I just wanted to share this quick video briefly with you this morning that wraps up our highlights from the past year. So with that, I'll ask my team to play the video.
The pandemic created new challenges and exposed deep-seated issues already identified in the region's long-range plan, Onto 2050. Cmap responded by providing critical data and analysis showing the pandemic's effect on transportation, municipal revenues, and the inequities facing essential workers. After a 3-year process to reform how we distribute federal transportation dollars, the region now has a dedicated fund for projects that advance regional goals and are evaluated through a performance-based selection process that includes an equity lens for the first time. The selected projects will be transformational for the region and would not have been possible if not for the reform we all worked together to achieve. Working with Cook County, we applied our new process by adapting our evaluation tool to help equitably distribute millions of dollars in CARES Act funding to communities most in need. We took our public engagement virtual, launching a webinar series called Cmap Talks, and transforming FLIP, our summer program for high school students, to a virtual experience, reaching more students than ever before. While 2020 brought unforeseen challenges, we began the year doubling down on 3 critical areas: building climate resiliency, ensuring an equitable transportation system, and growing an economy that works for everyone. To guide our work, we refreshed Cmap's core values to serve with passion, pursue equity, foster collaboration, lead with excellence, and drive innovation. Throughout the year, we supplied communities with information not found anywhere else, like comprehensive sidewalk data and water demand forecasts, while also highlighting economic development strategies like traded industry clusters. Our work with the region's 284 communities didn't stop there. Through our local technical assistance program, we worked with communities in all 7 counties and awarded 14 new planning projects. With support from the MacArthur Foundation, we provided Calumet Park and Sauk Village with dedicated staff support. To reach even more municipalities, we launched a new initiative called the Local Government Network, which we leveraged to share Cmap analysis on the census and a potential undercount in Black and Brown communities. Despite the pandemic, Cmap has made progress on many issues facing our region, while also moving to a new home at the old post office. We are looking forward to seeing you at our new space in the coming year as we work together to build back a stronger, more resilient region that serves everyone better.
Well, thanks. I hope that, that really just touches on some of the highlights that we've been working on this year and really trying to be more responsive to our community needs, especially during these times. I wanted to touch on a couple other items this morning. So in regards to our fiscal year 21 budget and work plan, we're in the home stretch of finalizing next year's budget and work plan. I know that the Department of Transportation, Idot, has requested that we advance our FY22 UWP budget submission to April to better align with the submission with other MPOs across the state. So we are working hard to get that accomplished this year. So next month, staff will be submitting to the board a draft of the annual comprehensive work plan and budget, and then it should be approved in March, and we should be set to make that deadline of April. Due to the year-long extension of the FAST Act, Cmap's federal funding is unchanged from fiscal year 2021 at about $18.8 million. So let's see, I have reached out to the new county board chairs across our region and met with them this week to brief them on the work that we do here at Cmap and the MPO Policy Committee. We, again, are looking forward to working with you. I also have noticed that last Friday we opened the call for projects for the Surface Transportation Program Shared Fund, which was highlighted in the video, the Congestion Mitigation Air Quality Improvement Program, and the Transportation Alternatives Program here. So projects that get submitted to those funds can address safety, transit, bicycle or pedestrian improvements, traffic and freight movement across the region, bridge and road reconstruction, and the use of alternative fuel sources. So the deadline for applications is March 5th. I know my staff would be happy to talk with any of you if you have questions about it. Additionally, the joint call for planning assistance with the Regional Transportation Authority will open January 20th and end February 3rd. And to best support the needs of our region as a result of COVID, we're really hosting a small invitational this year to prioritize awards based on community need. We also are welcoming communities to apply for safety-related technical assistance, and assistance could include developing design studies and action plans to address car, pedestrian, and bicycle safety challenges in communities. So we are looking forward to working with you on that. And speaking of safety, we are placing an increased attention on traffic safety as the number of fatalities and injuries continue to increase, not only in our region, but across the state. We have unfortunately lacked progress towards meeting the safety performance targets that we've set, which you'll hear more about on the agenda here. But as part of our commitment to safety, we will be kicking off a safety resource group that will meet later this month. And we really want to use this group to inform a regional safety action agenda to recommend improvements through the lenses of, typically we'll say the 3 E's, but we've added a couple extra E's here. So the lenses of equity, engineering, education, enforcement, and emergency services and public health. So the resource group is going to include members from across these fields to prioritize actions and build consensus to develop safety tools and resources for our regional partners. So we'll talk more about that on the agenda here. But just let's see. The other thing that I wanted to mention here too is that we have an RFP that we're evaluating right now that's really focused on equity and equitable engagement. So as the MPO, we're required to meet environmental justice regulations and also Title VI regulations as well. And so one of the things that we put in place was to have some assistance in developing a program to make sure that we're doing a better job of not only just reaching environmental justice communities and disadvantaged communities that traditionally don't have a voice in the planning process, but that we're able to more effectively implement and take in their input and really bring it into the planning process in a new way, in a more meaningful way. So we'll bring more to this committee about that and some of the lessons that we're learning about that. But with that, I will turn it over back to the secretary for the Cmap board report.
Thank you, Erin. And with that, we'll have the Cmap board report with Leanne Wedden. Leanne?
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. I will be brief because many of the items that were discussed at yesterday's board meeting are also on today's agenda. So a couple of highlights, though. There was a presentation from the auditors for, they presented Cmap's annual financial report, management letter for the year ending June 30th, 2020. Cmap has again received an unmodified opinion, which is the highest level of opinion you can receive in public accounting. So that was good news. Staff also presented the FY 2020 UWP program that is also on the agenda today. There may be some more discussion on that. And I will note that there were some comments from the board about the elimination or maybe 1 year, hopefully just 1 year suspension of the competitive program. as well as we talked about the semi-annual onto 2050 tip conformity analysis and tip amendment. Again, also on today's agenda, there was a discussion presentation around the 2021 highway safety targets and a presentation on Cmap's, a high-level presentation on Cmap's mobility recovery work that they will be engaging on this year. And finally, staff walked through both the state and federal legislative agendas for the 2021 year. That concludes my report. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments for Leanne? Thank you, Leanne. Then we'll move on to the Council of Mayors report with Mayor Schuelke.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just as a moment of explanation, the Council of Mayors represents the individual voices of 284 cities and villages that make up our region, including the city of Chicago. We meet with some regularity, at least probably once every 2 or 3 months. And we try to have meetings in face, but obviously we've had to Zoom it here for a while, and we hopefully will be able to return to the Cmap's headquarters at the post office here in the near future, because I think it's much better for us as a region to get together and see each other on a personal basis and get to know what's going on in each council. The beautiful part about the region is that we hand off to each council a lot of finances and other directions that they then can make some local decisions about, specifically how they're going to spend their money that's allotted to their council. It's been a proven process that has worked in the region. And I'm pleased to report that the Council of Mayors Executive Committee met virtually on October 27th. That was our last meeting. We're about to have another one. Staff provided an update on the changes and updates for the application booklet for the FFY 2022 through 2026 STP Shared Fund Call for Projects, which is now open. The planning liaison staff gave an overview of the Unified Work Program request for UWP funding for FY 2022, including the scope of work from the PLs. This year, there is an accelerated schedule for the application process. The council approved this request. Cmap staff gave a presentation on the principles and strategies for incentive reform, Cmap outreach and engagement, and an update on its work with the local government network. The next meeting is scheduled very soon on January 19th at 9:30 a.m. And we would certainly invite anybody on this call that wants to tune in. I believe you'll be able to access it on this probably the same site. I just want to say that on behalf of the Council of Mayors, we are great admiration for the staff at Cmap, the professionalization and the true understanding of the region and its transportation problems and its achievements and its goals and its where it's heading, where it's breaking down has been a phenomenal benefit to us. And I just want to take my hat off and salute the entire Cmap staff, starting with the executive director on down, because they are the ones that really put this together and keep us all informed. And I think as a result, you've got communities throughout the region that feel that they do have a voice, and there is some ability to try to achieve some goals or call to attention any particular issue of transportation related matters that needs to be addressed. So thank you. If any questions on my report, I'd be happy to try to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I would like to add, I second what you just said about the Cmap staff. Fantastic on all phases, specifically when it comes to new issue that creeps up on us, especially on a pandemic situation at the federal level, following up on the new issue that is swirling around us in the transportation field. And I second what you just said about the executive director and the entire Cmap team. Fantastic. We'll move on to item number 5, which is the semi-annual onto 2050 tip conformity analysis and tip amendment. And we'll have Russell Vietro Viac. I hope I did say I did say your name right. So
Not
Russell,
a
if you
problem.
would, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, included in your packet today is the Onto 2050 TIP conformity analysis and TIP amendment 21-02. As you know, the Cmap region is a non-attainment area for ozone. Thus, we are required to demonstrate that projects in the TIP conform to the motor vehicle emissions budget for our area through a regional emissions analysis. Specifically, projects in the TIP subject to air quality analysis must demonstrate, when modeled, that the region is not exceeding our motor vehicle emissions budget, which is shown near the end of the memo in your packet. The memo includes information about new projects along with various changes to existing projects that are part of the regional air quality analysis and was subject to a 30-day public comment period from November 2nd to December 3rd, during which time Cmap did not receive any public comments. As you may have noticed, we did make some changes to the memo, and we are now including greenhouse gas on-road mobile source emission results as an informational item, similar to what we do for PM 2.5. The region is in attainment for the PM 2.5 standard, but at one time we did have a budget to adhere to, which is shown in the memo. However, for GHG emissions, no such historical budget exists. The reduction goal shown is really just a little more than some back of the envelope stuff that Cmap staff put together. The key information here is that for mobile source GHG emissions, this is our baseline for where we are today. We plan to do some work to develop actual targets and compare where we are today to those targets, but actual targets don't exist at this time. In conclusion, our analysis demonstrates that the semi-annual Onto 2050 TIP conformity analysis and TIP amendment 21-02 are found to conform to the motor vehicle emissions budget for our region. Staff requests approval of the semi-annual Onto 2050 TIP conformity analysis and TIP amendment 21-02 as presented. If there are any questions, I can answer them at this time.
Any questions for Russell?
Okay, and then I'll entertain a motion to approve the semi-annual Onto 2050 TIP conformity analysis and TIP amendment. Motion.
Siskill and Cook County, so moved.
Second.
Jeff Shelkey, Council of Mayors.
Thank you. Then Aaron, will you please read the roll call?
Thank you. Secretary Osmond?
Aye.
CDOT?
Aye.
Cmap Frank Beal?
Aye.
Cmap Matt Brawley?
Aye.
CTA?
Aye.
Cook County?
Aye.
Council of Mayors?
Aye.
DuPage County?
Aye.
Tollway?
Aye.
Kane County?
Aye.
Kendall County? Lake County?
Aye.
McHenry County? Metra?
Aye.
Pace?
Aye.
RTA?
Aye.
And Will County?
Aye.
Motion carries, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you. If you'll give me a second. Aaron, I'm looking into, oh, no, I'm here.
6.0. You can change that.
Thank you. We're going to move on to item 6.0, which is the 2021 Cmap highway safety target. I would like the executive director to take the lead on this, and I know you did talk about this a little bit early on. So Aaron, if you will take the lead on this, I appreciate it.
Yeah, so, you know, I mentioned and alluded to the fact that we are concerned about making sure that we're meeting our safety targets, but also recognizing the fact that when we see crashes, fatalities across our region, that they aren't just numbers, they're people. And as we think about the future of our region, it's critical that we make a strong commitment to reducing serious crashes and fatalities and injuries. So we've made some headway on injuries, but as you'll see from Todd's presentation, we certainly haven't made as much headway as we would like to. And so I recognize that this committee, because of your focus on transportation, cares about this issue. So we will, in addition to talking about the safety targets, we're going to talk a little bit more after that about the group that we're putting together. But we really would be encourage you to bring your thoughts and conversation to this item. So with that, let me turn it over to Todd to go through the performance measures and safety targets.
Great. Thank you, Erin. And good morning. Today, I'm seeking the MPO Policy Committee's approval of the 2021 Highway Safety Performance Targets. The Transportation Performance Management Rule, or TPM, is intended to track national goals at the state and regional level for safety, asset condition, system performance, and congestion management air quality, or CMAQ. TPM requires agencies to track system performance over time and evaluate the effectiveness of policies, plans, and programs in meeting or not meeting its targets. The safety rule requires state DOTs and MPOs to establish 5-year targets as 5-year rolling averages on all public roads for 5 performance measures that include the number of fatalities, the rate of fatalities per 100 million vehicle miles traveled, the number of serious injuries, rate of serious injuries per 100 million VMT, and the number of non-motorized fatalities and serious injuries. The MPO is required to support the state DOT targets or establish its own targets. The highway safety targets are set each year, and this is the 4th year of setting highway safety targets. The Cmap board and MPO has supported Idot's targets the last 3 years. The MPO is required to show how it's planning and programming to help achieve the safety targets. This is accomplished through integrating the safety targets in the Transportation Improvement Program, or TIP, the long-range plan, and other MPO planning activities. Each year, the FHWA will perform an assessment of the safety performance targets and determine if the targets were met or if the state made significant progress towards achieving its targets. FHWA will evaluate the MPO performance during its certification review. Next slide, please. Each year, the FHWA evaluates whether states met or made significant progress towards meeting their targets. FHWA will consider states to comply if they achieve their targets or improve from the baseline at least 4 of the 5 required performance targets. Unfortunately, Idot did not meet any of its 2018 targets, but it did make significant progress towards the 2 serious injury targets. Because Idot did not meet or make significant progress on at least 4 targets, Idot will be required to use all Highway Safety Improvement Program, or HSIP funds, only for safety projects and develop an HSIP implementation plan. Next slide, please. The table on this slide shows Idot's 2021 highway safety targets and the 5-year average for the performance measures from 2015 to 2019. Cmap shares included under the state's numbers for reference. Idot uses a policy-based 2% reduction in the 5-year average or a trend line analysis to set its safety targets. Idot uses the method that results in the greatest decrease to set its target. This year, all 5 performance measures use the policy-based 2% reduction. So that tells you that the trend is probably not looking good for some of the performance measures. It's hard to see the trends we are experiencing on this slide, so the next few slides will provide a better picture of the trends. Next slide, please. The 2021 statewide fatality target is an even 1,000. This represents a 2% annual reduction in the 2015 to 2019 5-year average. This graphic shows the fatality trends for the state in blue and the Cmap region in red, with Idot's past targets as purple diamonds. The lighter colored lines are the annual totals, and the darker lines are the 5-year average. The 5-year average is used for the target setting process to smooth out the randomness of the annual fluctuations we see in the data. The 5-year average for both the state and Cmap region are trending up, even though the number of fatalities bounce up and down annually. Next slide, please. The 2021 statewide serious injury target is 11,556.4. Like fatalities, this represents a 2% annual reduction in the 2015 and 2019 5-year average. This graphic is formatted the same as the last, with statewide data in blue and Cmap region in red. Unlike fatalities, the 5-year average for the number of serious injuries is trending slightly down for both the state and the Cmap region. Next slide, please. The 2021 statewide non-motorized serious injuries and fatality target is 1,517.6. Like all the other targets, this represents an 2% annual reduction in the 2015 to 2019 5-year average. This slide is a good example of the randomness of the data on an annual basis and why the 5-year average is used for target setting. You see a sharp increase in 2015, and then a sharp decrease in 2016, and then another increase in 2017. The majority of the state's total non-motorized serious injuries and fatalities happen in the Cmap region, and the 5-year average for both the state and Cmap region are trending up. Next slide, please. Staff recommends that the MPO support Idot's policy-driven 2021 highway safety targets. Idot's targets reflect the need for and a commitment to reducing fatal and serious injury crashes. By supporting Idot's targets, the region will have a unified goal that supports making the road safer for all users. The graphic on this slide shows the number of fatal crashes in the Cmap region on state and local jurisdiction roads from 2015 to 2019. I put this graphic in as a reminder that we all need to work together to achieve not only the safety target, but a safer system for everyone. The next agenda item will go into detail about Cmap's effort to improve traffic safety in the region and help reach our safety goals. Thank you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Todd. So on this item, we are looking for your approval, but happy to entertain discussion first.
Yeah, Aaron, if I could say a little bit. So obviously, you know, this is something that at CDOT we're very focused on. We've actually been working hard on our Vision Zero planning. You know, we finished downtown, we've done the west side, we're pivoting to look at the south side. And it's its own kind of epidemic. And, you know, while Vision Zero can feel very aspirational, we really want to push those numbers down. This was the worst year for us in a long time in terms of fatalities in Chicago from traffic crashes. We had over 120 people lose their lives on our streets. And that's a 34% increase over 2019. And we know obviously with COVID, people are driving faster. We're doing what we can to mitigate that. So I'm heartened to see that the next item, right, is a regional safety action agenda. And we're pushing ourselves to set reach targets on this. And so I'm hopeful that that discussion can include looking at, you know, while we're looking at on averages what we've been doing, we want to make sure we're meeting those targets. But, you know, maybe I know we do, maybe we all need to do something different in order to really push that number down. So again, I'm excited to be part of the resource group, hopefully, or my team, and look forward to, you know, next year. This is a different conversation where maybe we've thought through other ways and other targets and other things that we can do collaboratively to get there. So just putting a finer point on it, and thank you for the presentation.
Erin?
Yes, Chair Perot.
This is experiential from my point of view. I before having a 12-minute commute, I used to have an hour-and-a-half commute, and during that time, I would travel on both the Eisenhower and the Jane Addams, and I would be going 70 miles an hour, and people would be traveling 80 to 85 miles an hour. And I would be going slow. I know that with the past years ago, what is it, about maybe 3 years ago, maybe 4, roads speed was allowed to be increased on our highways. And I was just wondering if that may have a direct impact, at least in our collar counties, on the increase of fatalities, because when you go fast, you have to be much more cautious with your driving. So that's just my thoughts and observation.
No, thank you. I think we are seeing definitely speed across the board has been a challenge, and not just here in the region, but across the country too. And it's the speed in combination with, you know, primary crashes and secondary crashes. And I know that the department has been doing a lot of work in trying to figure out, you know, how to mitigate all of those things. And our highway agencies and our tollway agencies also look at those sort of incidences and try to use technology to help us address them. Secretary, anything that you wanted to add on that note? And then we need you to unmute yourself too.
And that's a good point of discussion. Absolutely. First of all, it's a national trend, is what we are seeing, specifically to 2020. Specifically, we all initially thought, you know, that reduction in vehicular traffic, reduction in people driving with the stay-home order, that is going to take us somewhere safe, as far as safety and fatality and major injuries. The opposite happened, and it's not Illinois centric. If you look at Missouri, they had an increase of some 14% in their fatality. The initial number we are looking at, from our perspective, is over 1,000. In 2019, we finally get our fatality down below 1,000, and we are pushing very hard. And it's very, very disappointed that in 2020, with the reduction in traffic, we're still seeing the trend going up. I know the department is fully committed to this issue. It's the top priority, in a sense that we are committing a lot of resources. We have an entire Bureau of Safety Engineering and program that is dedicated to this issue. Cmap is a major player in this issue for us, and just to see that the entire Cmap committee focusing on this issue is gratifying. It takes all of us. It can't be it can't be the department. It can't be just one MPO or two MPOs driving the bus on this, but all of us collectively getting involved and leading this issue, and is going to be great for us. And I applaud Cmap, applaud you, Aaron, for focusing on this. And I know the regional discussion is coming up next, and I'm absolutely looking for serious and major reduction in our fatalities.
Can I ask a question?
Thank you. Yes, sir.
I was just curious. I understand I've talked to Chris Snyder and DuPage about this increase in fatalities. Has there been a study? Is it an engineering, capital improvement, roadway configuration issue, or is it distracted driving? I mean, do we have good data about the causes of this increase in fatalities?
Yes. I don't know if I'm going to say excellent data. I can't say excellent data. Maybe somewhat of a good data is what I'm going to say. Typically, when you look at an annual fatality, is probably there is a lag time of about a year until you get the entire, statistical analysis done, because everything is based on a police report. What took place, what's in the police report, what type of injury, is it a fatality, is it a serious injury? Was it a pedestrian? Was it a, interstate? Was it within a municipality? You put all that collectively and you have to analyze it. And typically it takes a lag time of about a year before we do a serious analysis. Having said that, the trend we have seen is distracted driving. Distracted driving is a major issue, not only for the state of Illinois, just even adjacent states or nationwide. We have noticed that sometimes it's very difficult to assign a number to it and say, okay, 50% of the fatalities are out, are the result of distracted driving. But it is something that we all have collectively noticed nationwide, that one of the lead causes of fatality is distracted driving. And obviously speed is always going to be there.
Yeah, and if I could add from Chicago's perspective, we saw this past year a lot of fixed post crashes. So folks are just crashing into signs or crashing into traffic signals, some of the, the appurtenances of the street. And so that, we think that relates to what Secretary Osmond was saying in terms of being distracted, but then also fewer cars, higher speeds. There aren't other cars to slow you down. And so we feel like that our data is bearing that out. And then we also, obviously we have both enforcement tools and also tools that we think have been really effective at places where we do have protected bike lanes, places where we do have pedestrian bump outs and those kinds of things. We know that that's making a change. So there is I think a physical factor, but it's picked up really by saying there's a lack of maybe the safety infrastructure in some of those spots.
So I know we want to talk a little bit more about what it is we plan to do over the coming year to do that, but we do need an approval from the committee on the 2021 highway safety targets.
This is Mike Connolly at CTA. I'll move approval of this item.
Thank you. A second?
A second.
Was there a second? I'm sorry.
Frank Beal, second.
Thank you, Frank.
You.
It's okay. I'll go ahead and read the roll here. Secretary Osmond,
Yes.
Idot,
Yes.
Cmap Frank Beal,
Yes.
Cmap Matt Burley,
Yes.
CTA,
Yes.
Cook County,
Yes.
Council of Mayors, Council of Mayors,
Michelle.
Yes.
DuPage County,
Yes.
Tolway,
Yes.
Kane County,
Yes.
Kendall County, Lake County,
Yes.
McHenry County, Metra,
Yes.
Pace,
Yes.
RTA,
Yes.
Will County,
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's move on to item number 7, which is the Regional Safety Action Agenda. And I'll ask the Executive Director, Aaron Alaman, to do the introduction on this item.
Yeah, thanks. I think I've talked a little bit about where it is we're headed with this, but let me just introduce Vicki Jacobson on our team who is leading this up.
Thank you. Thank you, Erin. Thank you all for having me. Good morning and Happy New Year. You know, I'm really glad that this is a topic on everybody's radar. I'm excited to start this work on behalf of Cmap. It's obviously urgent. I joined Cmap in September of last year. I'm a transportation planner with a background in multimodal planning and policy work. And so safety's been a primary issue in the work that I've done previously. And I'm really excited to start talking about this topic today. It's obviously very urgent. Next slide, please. So as we've already heard a little bit today, the need for action. The Safety Action Agenda is a response to a number of concerning trends and emerging needs in our region, which I'll go over briefly. As we've seen, traffic fatalities are on the rise, and that was exacerbated during the stay-at-home order. We are not meeting our federally mandated traffic safety targets. In addition to that, there's a sense that effective and consistent safety programs may be needed by local governments in our region. The data show that a majority of crashes occur on local and county roads in our region. So we are thinking that one of the ways we can really impact safety is to provide consistent guidance and policy work for particularly our local constituents. In addition, safety is a complex topic. We've touched on that already this morning. Behavior, engineering, all of it factors in. But there are even more dimensions being added to safety in recent years. And we want to focus our safety work to include an equity lens, among others, which I'll talk about later. And additionally, there seems to be a growing interest in active transportation modes, that's bicycling, walking. And they are vulnerable modes because they're not protected by a vehicle shell. And we want to address and make sure that our network is as safe for them as possible. Next slide, please. So we've seen some of these. I'll just go over this quickly because we've seen this chart already today. But since about 2014, after decades of relatively consistent decline, we saw traffic fatalities in our region, and as Secretary Osmond said, also nationally and statewide, increase, which is alone impetus enough for doing this work. Next slide, please. And additionally, non-motorized or bicycle and pedestrian fatalities and serious injuries are also trending upward. We are seeing a growing number of bicyclists and pedestrians in our fatality and serious injury numbers. These affordable, sustainable, and active modes are a benefit to our region in so many ways, particularly during the pandemic when they allowed for socially distant commuting. Yet they may not have adequate infrastructure and policies to support them and make them as safe as possible. Next slide, please. So the mission of the Regional Traffic Safety Agenda is not only just to make, not only to help us meet our targets, but also to address the very concerning trend that more people since 2014 are not returning home after traveling on our region's networks. We want to address regional traffic safety in a comprehensive way, an equitable way, a way that's driven by solid information and the best data available to us, and also work with our regional partners on the issue. We plan to center the work on the safety action agenda around Cmap's values, our implementation levers, how can we have the broadest impact as the MPO, and also the On to 2050 guiding principles. We want to support the work of our partners effectively and efficiently. There's a lot of people doing a lot of work in the safety topic, and we want to make sure that when we begin our work that we're leveraging all of the work that people are already doing. There's no need to reinvent the wheel, but there are maybe opportunities for us to make meaningful change in different ways. And eventually, you know, the idea is that we develop a long-term regional safety coalition out of this project, which I'll talk a little bit about later. Next slide, please. So as Aaron mentioned earlier, you know, the traffic safety is typically broken into 4 E's, and there's a growing movement to which have been historically engineering, education, emergency services, and enforcement. So engineering is, of course, the physical design of the roadway, very important, especially when you're trying to accommodate multiple modes and manage speeds. Education is the piece that will address awareness and behavior change among drivers and foster safe habits by people who are walking, bicycling, potentially at a young age, or drivers as they're getting their licenses. And then certainly this idea that ongoing education and social norms are needed for drivers on our roadways throughout their lifetime. Emergency services is using advanced information and technology to improve incident detection and response and management, which often results in crashes. So when there is a crash, there are often subsequent crashes as a result of the initial crash. And so that's something we have our eye on. And then finally, when we start talking about enforcement, we plan to bring an equity lens to that. You know, all too often, the enforcement of traffic safety laws lately has resulted in consequences far worse than the issues they were intended to solve. And we want to make sure that as we put forward our programs, that we have a strong eye towards making equitable enforcement possible in our region. Next slide, please. So I'll go over each of these in more detail, but in general, there are 4 major components of our regional traffic safety agenda. We're going to start with people. We're assembling some partners on the topic later this month, as Aaron mentioned. We want to use the best information possible, and our resource group will help guide us to the best information and best practices. We want to get on the ground practice in as we do this work so that we understand how we can have the biggest impact for our local governments. And finally, we want to create useful deliverables. I'll go over each of these in a little bit more detail now. Next slide, please. So our traffic safety resource group, as Aaron mentioned, these are regional partners from all the different aspects of traffic safety. This will be a group that helps us brainstorm some new ideas, helps us hone some initial ideas that we already have from our data. It's a short-term mission-driven schedule, meaning this group will probably convene for the next 18 to 24 months, maybe 6 times or so, with potentially some technical sessions on specific topics in between. This group will help us inform the timeline and the tools that we develop, again, representing the 4 E's. And we also hope that this resource group are the seeds for a longer, broader regional coalition on traffic safety to raise awareness and action on safety for the long term. Next slide, please. Yeah, so data has already come up as a major topic. Data and information to understand what's happening and why and how we can affect change is incredibly important. There are existing data sources that we plan to use. We also want to look at the potential for new data sources. You know, connected devices offer a host of information, and we're exploring the potential to understand not just where crashes are happening, but there's a new thought that we need to understand where near misses are happening, because those are just crashes that didn't happen to occur, but they could indicate dangerous conditions or unsafe behavior. So we're looking at the potential for that. Obviously, the timeliness of data allows people to respond and understand if changes that we're making to our roadways and our behavior programs are working. So we want to do what we can to support our partners in sharing data effectively. We want to predict outcomes as much as possible. So we're looking at software that could identify systemic issues in terms of design or function of our roadways, so that we're not responding to one intersection at a time, but rather having a broader impact on our safety programs before the crashes occur. And again, incorporate the best practices and expertise of the resource group. Next slide, please. And then the projects. So this is the doing while planning piece of this. While we start to assemble our resource group, we are also kicking off a pilot project in Flossmoor to do a local road safety plan. These types of projects will help us understand what the needs of local governments are and how Cmap can play a stronger role in supporting those needs. We hope to develop in-progress research and resources for local governments, whether that's the safety data or other tools that connections with funding sources or other tools we can help develop as we're doing this work over the next couple of years. And eventually, we want safety to play an even larger role in the projects that we put forward. So we're hoping that the research that comes out of this group and the policies will help inform project selection processes at Cmap and throughout the region. Next slide, please. Yes, implementation. So this is about the deliverables. At the end of this resource, the safety action agenda, we hope that we have provided services and tools and resources to our region so that everyone can take action and everyone knows what to do to affect change in a positive direction. So this could be, as I said, in the form of data and information. We could look at some policy work that is needed to be done on a regional level. Certainly design guidance. When we start talking about the primary issue, speed management has come up today. Bicycle and pedestrian safety is another major topic of concern. Is there design guidance that we can provide or other resources in that realm? And again, and as Aaron mentioned, and it's a perfect end for my presentation today, it's the human dimension of safety that we want to put forward in creating a new social norm for what it means to be safe on our roadways. So we're ready to tackle the topic in whatever way we can be most effective in protecting human life on our roadways. And I think that's it. If anyone has any questions or wants to connect with me outside of this meeting, I would love to have a longer conversation about this as well.
Any questions, comment?
I'll just say this is great. We're excited at CDOT to work together on this. And if you haven't connected with our Vision Zero team and other folks, we have a new deputy commissioner over project development that's kind of overseeing all of that planning, and we'd be happy to work together on this. So very excited.
Yes, your team is already, we're in close contact and we're excited about that relationship.
Great.
This is Rocco. Hey, Victoria, thank you very much again. Appreciate the information. I see that you've already reached out to our staff, so that's great. I do appreciate your role and CMAP's lead role in bringing us all together for this extremely important issues. We at the TOLI have also seen this same increase in fatalities that we've heard before. We saw it in 2020, and unfortunately we had a bad start to 2021, so that's not a good sign. To somebody talk about cause of fatalities, I have to say that I'm still surprised to see the number of fatalities associated with people not wearing seatbelts. I can't believe that's still an issue, but we saw a noticeable increase, small numbers, but definitely a noticeable increase year over year. On that side of the house was the highest number that we've had since at least 2012, as far back as that I had in front of me. To the other point, yep, speeds are up, volumes are down. There's absolutely no respect for work zones. That's having been out in construction before and in construction sites, you could see that very clearly. People don't care what 45 miles per hour means in a work zone. But it's a safety the issue for the motorists. It's an issue for the pedestrians. We do have pedestrian fatalities on the tollway, believe it or not. It's our maintenance workers who are out there every single day having to protect and clean up and take care of the roadways. It's the emergency responders, again, lack of respect. I think we've introduced new laws. Speed definitely, the increase in the speed has definitely had an impact on the severity of the incidents. As when an accident does happen at a higher speed, more damage is going to occur. It's just fact. But again, thankful for what Cmap, what you guys are going to do to pull this regional safety group together. I am hopeful that by working together, because I'm not going to use the word collaboration after seeing the press conference of the Bears yesterday, that if anybody saw that, is a pretty overused word, collaboration on that. But I'm hopeful that working together, we can identify the ways to drive these numbers down. And through through awareness, like you said, through design, engineering, signage. The other part of this is operations and communications between the different agencies. I think that's important when something happens on one entity's roadway, how to communicate better across our agencies and then to the motorists on our systems, and just really the overall regional focus and attention to this issue. So I think it's important for us. We look forward to working on this. Wish we didn't have to work on this. But we look forward to working together with you, Cmap, and all the different agencies here to really make some impacts here in a positive way. So, thanks.
Thank you, Rock.
Thank you.
On behalf of the Council of Mayors, Jeff Shelkey here, I'd like to just offer up. We've had a number of the mayors in the region over the last few years, and specifically, I guess probably for the last 40 years. There's been a component to this whole question that I didn't see mentioned here today, and that's the bicycle rider and its conflict with the cars in the road. And I know several mayors, and I'm not going to name them right now, who have had some really bad situations occur in their towns where bicycles and automobiles did not work together very well, and there was some fatal crashes and situations involving bicycles. And I've had a couple of the mayors suggest to me they wanted to come to one of our meetings and suggest that maybe we should try to embark on some type of a strategy in which we would preach some more strategic bicycle safety riding ideas to people. Because I know in my own town, within the last 6 months, we had a bicycle accident in which the rider lost all the teeth in their mouth in the one accident. And so there is some really rough stories with bicycle riding, and I just think that this is a component that probably needs to be brought into the discussion here, because we have greatly expanded, and I'm all for it. The bicycle riding, you can go, basically you can kind of ride the region if you want to, specifically on all the trails, but some of those trails obviously have to cross state highways or public streets, and that's where we seem to run into the conflict. So I would encourage us to, add that conversation to this whole program here. Thank you.
Thank you. That's definitely a topic we intend to research and develop.
Victoria, this is Arlene Coker from the Federal Highway Administration. Thank you for your presentation. And thank you for including a member of our staff on the committee. I would add that, again, I applaud the effort. I think it's the right thing, right time, although I guess we all could say maybe it's a little bit late, but now is the time for sure. I would bring to your attention maybe one of the things that you could look at, and I think that we need to look at statewide, is performance. I think it's critical for us to understand if we are effectively spending our safety money on the right countermeasures. Are we picking the right countermeasures, and are they getting the results that we're looking for? And so I think that would be the next piece of data we need, is as we implement these countermeasures that we identify through this initiative, are they actually taking care of the crashes, the fatalities, the serious injuries that we are expecting them to. And if they're not, then what's the next thing we need to do? So I think, again, you know, we want to tackle safety, but we want to make sure that we're doing it effectively, for sure. So that would be the measure that I would think, you know, would be helpful to us to add. So thank you for the effort. I appreciate it and I applaud it. So thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Measuring progress is at the top of our principles for sure. Thank you. That's
perfect. Thank you.
Perfect. Any more comments, questions? Okay, thank you. And now we're going to move on to item number 8 on the agenda, which is the Unified Work Program. And we'll have Angela Manning Hardman lead the effort of
Thank you.
this time.
Good morning, Secretary Osmond and MPO Policy Committee. Happy New Year, by the way. A lot of what I'll say will be kind of a recap of what Erin mentioned in her report to the committee. For your review and outline in a memo, in a copy of a memo to you, is the FY22 budget process. As Erin mentioned, at the request of Idot, to better align Cmap's budget submission with the timeline for other MPOs in the region, a final version of the UWP budget is due April 1st, and we will meet that deadline, Secretary Osmond. As a result, the final budget will be submitted to the board in March for approval. To expedite the budget process, at the October UWP committee meeting, the committee adopted an accelerated schedule for development of the budget and voted only to conduct a core program this year. The committee will use this time between now and June to review the competitive program and to seek opportunities for efficiency for our next year FY23 program. As Erin mentioned, our federal funds are unchanged at about $18.8 million. In November, UWP committee members submitted core proposals for consideration. Yesterday afternoon, the committee actually met and approved the 22 budget. I want to make a note that the schedule for the other committee review and considerations are in your memo, so I won't read the dates. And I also want to make a note, there was a typo caught by Frank Bill yesterday, where we mentioned Metra twice in the memo. We're actually referring to Metra and RTA. There are 7 UWP members on the committee. Finally, as Leanne mentioned, there were questions from the board about the future of the UWP program and whether it was moving from a performance-based program versus a formula-based. And so Erin spoke on this at the UWP committee, and so did I, but we want to reiterate that this year is just really an anomaly, and that to meet the IDOT timeline, we needed to accelerate the completion of the budget. Performance-based funding is very important to the region. We understand that, and there are no plans to move to a formula-based program in the future. And so with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that the committee has.
Mr. Secretary, if I may, Leanne Redden from RTA, and thanks, Angela, for that presentation and that sort of clarification and build off the conversation from yesterday. I know Frank Beal sits on the MPO as well. He was the one that initially raised those comments. I think we're encouraged to hear that this is just an anomaly, a one-time event, because, you know, as we all know from the federal government on down, there's been a lot of efforts to move all of us into more of competitive and performance-based allocation of all our funding pots. And so it would seem going in the wrong direction if that was a trend that Cmap was looking to continue. So, you know, just on the record saying that understand that this is a one-time, but on the record saying that I hope this is only a one-time. So that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on to item number 9, which is the mobility recovery, and this is a very important topic, obviously, in light of COVID-19 and how the entire mobility system our transportation system is going to function in light of COVID-19 and perhaps some of the expected recovery down the road. So I would let Executive Director Aaron Alleman handle this topic.
Thanks. We have a recorded presentation that'll be about 5 minutes. That'll go over some high-level data points related to the mobility recovery work that we want to undertake over this next year. And we have a consultant on board to assist us in these efforts. And afterwards, if we do have a little bit of time, I'd be curious and interested in your feedback on the directions we should be taking. And I view this as an opportunity for us to recover better and fix some of the things that we knew were challenges prior to the pandemic. We're going to have to be more efficient with our resources. So with that, let me just ask staff to go ahead and play that video, and then we can talk a little bit afterwards before the end of the meeting.
Thank you for allowing me the time to provide some information and insight on the exciting new initiative Cmap has begun. We look forward to hearing your feedback and insights on this work today. As you all know, our transportation system is the backbone of our region. Our multimodal network does more than allow for a daily commute. It keeps America's supply chain running, and it can be an economic ladder of opportunity if it connects people to good jobs. Our region's economy is interconnected through our transportation system. Prior to the stay-at-home orders, most workers in the Chicago region commuted across county boundaries every day, knitting our communities together into a metropolitan economy. Our county board chairs and the City of Chicago's COVID-19 Recovery Task Force recognize that our transportation system level challenges must be addressed at a regional scale and have asked Cmap to coordinate these efforts. To understand our current challenges, Cmap has been actively monitoring and reporting on the travel trends of our region since March, which has led to numerous questions and concerns that necessitate that we develop a strategy and action plan. We know that passenger vehicle trips, shown here in blue, were down more than 40% in April, but as of this fall had almost recovered to March levels. In contrast, we have already seen truck traffic surpass where it was in 2019. We will need to address anticipated congestion on our roadways in this work. Also know that the pandemic did not improve the safety of our streets. By the end of 2020, the state of Illinois had over 100 more fatalities than 2019, rising over 1,000 in total. This chart demonstrates the rise in bike and pedestrian crashes in Chicago alone in 2020. Transit sustainability is an obvious concern for all of us. While we've seen a rebound in auto trips, system-wide transit ridership remains close to 75% below 2019. Our agency partners are working to both combat the day-to-day challenges of operating during pandemic, as well as trying to plan for the period of recovery that will follow. The funding and sustainability of the system is of critical importance to all of us. We can't continue to address our mobility systems as business as usual or assume that trends and patterns will go back to where they were in 2019. Even before the COVID crisis, our region faced significant challenges to fully funding the transportation system and ensuring equitable access. The pandemic has put many of these issues under a microscope. Cmap has brought on a consultant team to work with us to help the region understand the impacts of the crisis and put forward an actionable plan to keep the region on track towards meeting the goals of Onto 2050. The work will look specifically at ways to mitigate a likely rebound in congestion, sustain the transit system beyond the recovery phase, and increase the overall resilience of the region's multimodal transportation system. We'd like to tell you more specifically about what this initiative will entail. The main deliverables will utilize information on national and international mobility system solutions that are potentially applicable to the Chicago context. It will characterize COVID-related changes in employment, real estate markets, and travel preferences, bringing needed insight into land use and behavioral changes that occurred since and potentially after COVID. This research will inform Cmap modeling of regional travel in the short and medium term. Modeled results will then be used to characterize possible travel demand management strategies, which will then be matched to the most appropriate markets in our region. We anticipate this work to be dynamic and iterative in order to assist our partners, implementers, and decision makers in having information they need in the short and long term to address mobility issues. The final deliverable will gather these findings and culminate in an immediate and implementable action plan that outlines how the region can continue to advance the shared goals of ON2 2050 in light of the current challenges. It will also align with the timing of our 2050 update in fall 2022, ensuring that we're moving ultimately towards a stronger 2060 plan. The backbone of these efforts will be a steering committee that will provide our team ongoing feedback and will be comprised of representatives of the MPO policy committee members, civic and community organizations, as well as the business community. We'll be reaching out to our partners to convene this group in the coming weeks. To help us be successful in this work, we are pleased to have selected AECOM Technical Services, who have partnered with Transmart EJM and the Center for Neighborhood Technology to undertake this project. The AECOM team brings a wealth of national experience working on the development of travel demand strategies in different regions, as well as a suite of recent work related to COVID impacts on transportation networks in major metropolitan cities. This includes scenario planning analysis for New Jersey Transit and Northern Virginia Transportation Authority, as well as a return to work plan for SEPTA in Philadelphia. The team has also recently completed work on multimodal mobility planning, such as the Colorado Smart Mobility Plan and CT rides with the Connecticut Department of Transportation. Transmart EJM will contribute as a subconsultant to the policy and strategy development, and C&T has been brought onto the team to bring voices to the table that have not historically been included in government decision-making, continuing Cmap's commitment to equity and transportation planning. The Cmap staff working on this project are cross-divisional and will be led by our principal, Elizabeth Scott, and project manager, Stephanie Levine. We are excited to initiate this project and know it will be a resource for our implementing partners and for our region as a whole to address our mobility concerns now and post-COVID. We know that our work will ultimately impact air quality, access to jobs, and opportunity growth in our region. We look forward to getting your input today and support as the work continues. Thank you.
That's the end of the recorded presentation. We're curious in the few remaining minutes if there are thoughts on where we should be focused in this work, what you're seeing are transformational issues, maybe you would like to see and we're talking about prior to the pandemic that we can really leverage to make sure that this work is impactful for you all. And I'll just also end my remarks by saying that both of these two topics are topics that we know we will be bringing back to your March meeting and beyond because this group is your insight is so critical. So.
I'll start. Jeff Shoki from the Council of Mayors. In talking to my fellow mayors throughout the region, I think this is a real upfront topic with many of them as to trying to remake our transportation system or readjust it, maybe is probably a better word, as to what's going to happen when this whole COVID thing passes us by. A trend that I will tell you, I'll speak only for my own community of Batavia. I have in Batavia right now 5 senior living communities who are all separate from each other. I have one of the larger ones in the Chicagoland region called the Homestead. And so I have a huge senior living population and I'm about to pick up more because I have a 6th senior living community under construction. And one of the things we are noting is that what I sense is a huge new demand for people that want to be pick me up at the door and take me to the drugstore, or pick me up at the door and take me to the train station. And so the call and ride service, or the van service, or whatever you want to call it, I see a significant need in the region in the years ahead for some smaller type vehicles that can pick up 3, 4, 5 people and move them from point A to point B. And, Pace right now is, I think, doing an admirable job in putting this kind of call on ride thing or, customer pickup service into place. But I see that as a growing trend as more and more people, I think, really appreciate the value of being able to just call them on the phone and say, pick me up tomorrow morning or pick me up in a half hour or whatever the demand is. And that's a trend that I think should be included in any study that we do, because it certainly is one that's quite active out here in Batavia, Kane County area. We've got a lot of people that now are starting to look at that and focus on it. So thank you.
Thank you.
This is Mr. Secretary Leanne Redden from RTA. Just to say, well, just to highlight to the committee and the MPO that the RTA in the region is also on the very specific transit space, also embarking on sort of a three-step recovery strategy. We're in step 2, which is more immediate focus on this current budget, allocation of federal relief dollars, et cetera. But our final step, step 3, which we'll pivot to after that, is the longer term recovery of the transit system. And so we've had several conversations with Cmap staff already. The hope is that this work dovetails in and supports well, the work that we in the transit space very specifically have to do. So we look forward to kind of continued coordination. Rocco, I won't say collaboration, but continued coordination amongst the sort of the working group on this, as well as the activities that we'll be continuing to work on.
No, thanks. We're excited to work in partnership with you. And I think, the work that you're doing is really going to drive sort of the entry points for us, and thinking about sort of what happens with transit has a potential domino effect too on the rest of our systems. We've made such good progress in terms of managing parking better. Is it perfect? Not yet. Thinking about our curb space, this mobility as a service, as Mayor Schilke mentioned too. So how can we get to those places faster? So unless there are other comments, we'd be happy to connect with each of you offline a little bit to hear more about how we can encourage reduce congestion and think about mitigating some of the negative impacts that the potential is certainly there to have happen.
Great.
Great. Well, I think that's moving on.
Indeed. Let's move on to item number 10, which is other businesses. And I'm going to open up the floor for any other subject that anyone of the attendee would like to bring up. None? I do have one announcement to make. Many of you have got to know Anthony Quigley, who was a regional engineer until just a couple of weeks ago. He did retire at the end of the year out of the office in Schaumburg. Long career, very productive, very professional. I was very proud of him. But like I say, everybody retires at some point in time. So he did take the advantage of what you would call the rule of 85 and retired end of the year. Just yesterday, I have made an announcement of the new regional engineer in District 1, and he is Jose Rios. Jose Rios is a 23, 24-year employee in the district, well-rounded. He has been, his major expertise is on the project delivery side, especially large scale project. And as we know, a majority of our funding does go to the district in Schaumburg. So he is quite capable of handling that district. And recently, for the last 2 or 3 years, he was in charge of the Bureau of Operation, basically, on the snow and ice, even the civil unrest that we have seen this summer, coordinating all our highway maintainers, the permit issues, and quite a lot of involvement on the traffic side and on the safety side that we just talked about. You will find Jose Rios to be a great asset to the region and to each and every one of you. Unfortunately, I did not ask him to come because we weren't ready, but we did send an announcement out late yesterday. So wanted to put that on the record for all of you.
Congratulations to Jose. I actually think he might be on the call. but
Is he Rios?
Yes, I am. Thank you
Well,
very
there you
much,
go.
Secretary Osborne.
You snuck up on me, Jose. Would you like to say something?
Well, thank you very much. I look forward to working with everyone, and please feel free to contact me if you need any assistance, and I'm hoping to be able to help CMAP and all the other participants meet the goals that we want for the region. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's move on to item 11, which is typically the last item. When we meet, this is an opportunity for anyone from the audience, public member from the audience to chime in and provide any comment that they would like to.
Yes. Hello, this is Heather Armstrong. I got good news. We got response from the Des Moines Housing Authority. Now all we have to do is just wait for the voucher itself.
Congratulations, Heather. We're glad
great
that's
news.
moving forward.
Happy New Year to you. It's Garland Armstrong, Chair Oserman. And like my wife says, we got it and we've been waiting for it for a long time. And now we finally got it. We saw a video of it yesterday and now we just got to wait for some other forms and then we'll take it from here. So we're going to keep you up to date and then we'll definitely tell them once we're on there about they might ask us to be on the councils for disabilities and we'll bring up some policy issues of it too, including everything what it says on there. So, and then we might one day have them come to Illinois and let y'all see it firsthand and then how they could use some of the references from here so they can take it to Iowa and see what is what all about.
Great, thank you for the feedback. Any more comments from the audience? Hearing none. Now, would you please, may I have a motion to adjourn? Or let's talk about our next meeting. Next meeting is going to be on March 11, 2021. And with that, I would like to have a motion to adjourn.
Jeff Schalke, Council of Mayors, makes that motion.
Thank you. Second?
Seconded by Idot.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And everybody have a great day.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.